What's up, guys? Today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite intricacies of Advanced OU, the synergy between Salamence and Metagross. So their typing, the way they interact with each other by virtue of their typing is just a beautiful thing. It allows them to switch between each other and continue an offensive threat. I mean, look, anyone can switch Blissey into a Thunderbolt, but you are hardly causing the other guy to, shake in his boots. Oh no, it's a Blissey, my entire team's gonna die. But when Metagross comes in, that's what the other guy's thinking. So you are able to use these two defensively without ceding offense, and it's such a beautiful thing, not just because of that, but because they cover so much between the two of them. I mean, they are hardly hard counters to the entire metagame, but the way they can switch in on those resisted moves and threaten the aggressor out is really, really unique. And it's it's one reason why they're one of the most notable offensive combinations in Advanced. So check it out. Salamence's typing is Dragon Flying. Metagross's typing is Steel Psychic. So Salamence is weak to Dragon, Ice, and Rock, all of which Metagross resists. And even if Metagross is slower, then it is able to take usually even one super effective hit. So let's say a Stray Fire Blast from a Tyranitar. So if it gets in on that resisted move, it is still going to be able to take that hit. Now, on the other hand, Metagross is weak to Ground and Fire, which Mence eats up, and its speed allows it to get the jump on a lot of things. Like, for example, Tyranitar wants to Fire Blast Metagross, and your Metagross is a slow variant, so suddenly you respond with Salamence, and if you responded with, say, your Swampert, then Swampert would also have to watch out for HP Grass. Speaking of HP Grass, Salamence also makes a great pivot into that, so we're just going to use a standard mixed offense team for our example here. So look at the synergy here, because these Pokemon together are hardly countering everything for a prolonged period of time. But the way they switch between each other is how they afford to run less bulk, and therefore they are able to run more offense. And Salamence and Metagross are so unbelievably key here. And the reason it's Metagross instead of Jirachi, now Salamence and Jirachi also have great synergy, but Metagross being able to threaten things that Salamence might be annoyed by, such as a healthy Tyranitar, or even a Snorlax, which technically doesn't fall under resistances, but it's just another example of a Pokemon that can sort of check Salamence if it's at full health, and Metagross turns it into offense rather than falling back on something defensively. So you see how these two, between each other, they are not easing off the gas. And that's just with their typing defensively. So, and we haven't even gotten into how they open up for each other offensively. I also want to mention that their beautiful typing overlap means that if you're ever running Wish on Salamence, you are going to be able to keep Metagross healthy quite consistently. Like, even if it's not an ideal matchup, let's say Salamence wishes as the opponent switches to Milotic, then, just get Metagross healed up on the Ice Beam, or even if it takes a serve, you're still getting healed up, and then switch to your counter. So you can do the same against Swampert. So, speaking of Swampert, let's talk about how these two open up for each other offensively. Now, they can also be used as physical bruisers on a Magneton offense team, and obviously their defensive synergy is very handy when you're not covering that much by virtue of having Magneton on your team. But, I mean, with Magneton removing Scarm, then these two can just fully bulldoze the opponent with physical attacks. So let's assume on that previous team it's going to be MetaMence, but here it could be Dragon Dance or Choice Band. This could be Choice Band or just straight up any attacks, physical attacks plus boom with HP Grass potentially for Swampert. So the most obvious area of synergy offensively is that both of them are stopped by bulky waters such as Milotic and Swampert. And Metagross baits those guys in, and boom, they're gone. Salamence has a clear path. Or in the case of Swampert, it can just get HP grassed, so you don't risk anything on Protect. So The way they just open up for each other is beautiful. The way they can take hits from so much, like for example, with that mixed offense team against another mixed offense team, Salamence's ability to take a +1 psychic from Celebi, or Metagross's ability to take a +1 HP fire from Celebi, just generally being able to tank stuff like that is invaluable, since it lets you really it lets you dish out damage in one-on-ones and then finish it off with one of your other guys. They can also both boost speed together, DD-Ment and Agility Gross, an often forgotten combination. And I just can't speak highly enough for how much I love the synergy between these two, because the creative switching they allow together. Rather than going to your defensive Swampert to counter Tyranitar, you can feasibly go to either of these two, and you're turning the Tyranitar into an offensive assault rather than just going to your big fat defensive Pert, which is just going to get, walled. So, yeah, use these two. I am a huge fan of how they work together. And anything else I want to mention? Oh, they're great choice banners together. So if you really want immediate power between the two of theirs, synergy allowing them to switch in on each other, then that's another way to do it. Although I would probably recommend Magneton alongside it. Otherwise, it'll just be difficult. But most of the time these days, they're seen with both running mixed sets to handle Skarm and Pert, and zero in on different targets. I mean, the synergy is wonderful in so many ways, depending on what checks them. Like, for example, mixed Salamence usually runs Dragon Claw, Fire Blast, Hidden Power Grass, and Brick Break, and that is walled by specially defensive Zapdos. So there are a few ways you can do it. The opponent might say, hey, I'm using my Zapdos as a switch into Metagross because I don't want it to take out my Skarm and then my Swampert, because then the opponent's Tyranitar is going to be really dangerous. So instead I'm going to use Zapdos to counter it. And if Metagross blows up Zapdos, then suddenly Salamence is going to tear through that Skarm Pert core. So you see the beautiful way they can, really tear holes for each other. Conversely, it can be Salamence that opens the hole for Metagross by running a standard mix set and getting rid of Dragon Claw for Rock Slide, so it has a less spammable attack, but it baits in specially defensive Zapdos like nothing else. And then with that dent in it, then suddenly Metagross is free to, this being a common set it runs currently, but even with any Metagross, it's free to get in that target it's looking for, and credit to Ostomatitos for this set. It's very good. He used it a lot recently. But yeah, so you see how they just can bait things for each other offensively and defensively. And if you've got a mixed Mence and the opponent has a team with, let's say, the two trappers, Snorlax, Claydol, and Milotic, then, they're probably going to have to fight Metagross with Milotic. Boom, Metagross gets it, then Salamence just starts smashing everything in sight. I love the synergy between these two so much. It's just beautiful. And when you start mixing other Pokemon into the mix, and you already have so much offensive defensive capability between these two that you can really get specific with what you want your remaining guys to be. So, you've got so much wall-breaking power against defensive teams, and you've got so much switch potential against offensive teams. So you're breaking down bulky cores, and you're switching around offensive teams, which are also not going to be taking your hits as well, meaning you can really get the full value out of those switches. So yeah, this was a short video and just me ranting about how much I love the synergy between these two. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you took something from it. I hope you are inspired to build your own Salamence Metagross team. There are a million options. You can go physical offense. You can go spikes. You can go mixed offense. You can go special offense if you want, because they're, with the physical options, obviously, as you're going to want those. But yeah, you can go stall, Wish Mence plus bulky Metagross. You can absolutely do that. So yeah, Salamence and Metagross have wonderful synergy. It is a thing of beauty. I feel like the synergy between Salamence and Metagross and the way they enable switching around to handle threats is emblematic of the beauty of Advance as a whole. They really exemplified what I believe much of the tier to be about. And with that, I think I'm going to call it. So thank you guys for checking this video out. I hope it inspired you in some way. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will catch you next time. Salamence, Metagross, Advance OU forever.